From the dawn of civilization, history has been forged in the crucible of conflict, shaped not by the masses, but by the will of a select few. These are the commanders, the strategists, the leaders whose genius, ambition, and audacity redrew the maps of the world. They were masters of the battlefield, architects of empires, and titans of their age. Their names echo through the corridors of time. Alexander, who wept for there were no more worlds to conquer. Caesar, whose legions carved an empire from Gaul to Egypt. Genghis Khan, whose horsemen thundered across continents, uniting the largest contiguous land empire in history. But what truly separated these legends from ordinary men? Was it sheer tactical brilliance, unwavering charisma, or a ruthless will to power? How did Hannibal, with his elephants and ragtag army, bring the mighty Roman Republic to its knees? What strategies allowed Napoleon, a minor Corsican noble, to crown himself emperor and dominate Europe? What were the pivotal decisions, the gambles, the strokes of genius that turned the tide of battle and altered the course of human destiny? Welcome to the Commander's Archive. Here, we don't just recount tales of conquest, we dissect them. We march into the minds of the greatest military leaders ever to live, analyzing their strategies, comparing their legacies, and uncovering the secrets behind their most decisive victories and catastrophic defeats. We will stand with Wellington at Waterloo, sail with Nelson at Trafalgar, and ride with Saladin into Jerusalem. Join us as we unlock the war chests of the past, explore the art of command, and understand the figures who commanded armies, conquered kingdoms, and built legacies that have endured for centuries. This is the ultimate chronicle of military leadership, the stories of triumph and tragedy, of strategy and sacrifice. This is the Commander's Archive. Subscribe now and let the campaigns begin.
Today, we're restaging an epic historical showdown between two of the most legendary figures to ever ride across the pages of history. Genghis Khan, the unifier of the Mongols, and Saladin, the Sultan who reclaimed Jerusalem. The question on the table: who was the deadlier holy warrior? Now, that term is complex, and we'll unpack it. We're not just talking about swords and arrows. We're talking about strategy, empire building, and the very different ways they used faith to fuel their ambitions. So buckle up, because this is the Mongol storm versus the Muslim night. Let's start by setting the stage. Picture the late 12th century. The Middle East is a complex tapestry of Crusader states and Muslim principalities. Into this world stepped Salah al-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, whom we know as Saladin. Born into a Kurdish military family, he wasn't destined for the throne. He was a scholar, a quiet man who preferred books to battles, but destiny had other plans. Through a combination of brilliant political maneuvering and military skill, he rose to become the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, uniting disparate Muslim factions under his Ayyubid banner. His ultimate goal: to drive the Crusaders out of the Holy Land and reclaim Jerusalem for Islam. This wasn't just a political campaign. For Saladin and his followers, it was a sacred duty, a jihad to restore honor and faith. Now, let's journey a few years forward and thousands of miles east to the harsh, windswept steppes of Mongolia. Here, a boy named Temujin is born into a world of brutal tribal warfare. His early life was a nightmare. His father was poisoned, his family was abandoned, and he was even enslaved. This crucible of hardship didn't break him. It forged him into steel. Through sheer will, charisma, and an unmatched genius for warfare and organization, Temujin unified the scattered and feuding Mongol tribes. In 1206, he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. His divine mandate came from Tengri, the eternal blue sky, the supreme deity of the Mongols. He believed he was destined to conquer the world, not just for glory, but as the instrument of a divine will. For Genghis Khan, conquest was a sacred mission to bring all people under the peace of the eternal sky. So, let's compare their military genius. Saladin was a master of defensive warfare and calculated offense. He was a chivalrous commander, known for his patience and his ability to exploit his enemies' weaknesses. His masterpiece was the Battle of Hattin in 1187. He didn't just rush the Crusader army. Instead, he lured them into the desert, cut them off from water sources, and harassed them relentlessly with his horse archers. By the time the main battle began, the heavily armored knights were exhausted, dehydrated, and demoralized. Saladin's forces encircled and annihilated them. It was a strategic masterstroke that led directly to the recapture of Jerusalem. He understood terrain, logistics, and psychology. He wasn't about annihilation. He was about achieving a clear, strategic objective with minimal risk. Genghis Khan, on the other hand, was an entirely different kind of storm. The Mongol army was arguably the most devastating military machine the world had ever seen. Genghis's genius was in organization, discipline, and innovation. He created a strict meritocracy, promoting commanders based on skill, not birthright. He perfected the art of the feigned retreat, luring enemies into traps. His horse archers were unparalleled, able to shower enemies with arrows while riding at full gallop. But his deadliest weapon was psychological warfare. Before attacking a city, he would demand its surrender. If they complied, they were often spared and incorporated into the empire. If they resisted, the Mongols would unleash absolute terror, making an example of them so that the next city would think twice. This wasn't just cruelty. It was a calculated strategy of fear that made his conquests terrifyingly efficient. While Saladin won battles, Genghis Khan erased armies and toppled civilizations. Now for the holy aspect of our question. How did faith shape their actions? Saladin is the quintessential image of the holy warrior in the Islamic tradition. His entire campaign was framed as a jihad to liberate sacred lands. He was pious, generous, and renowned for his mercy, a stark contrast to the First Crusades' brutal sack of Jerusalem a century earlier. When Saladin retook the city, he forbade any massacre of civilians. He allowed Christians to ransom their freedom or leave peacefully, and he even protected the holy sites of other faiths. His chivalry was legendary, earning him respect even from his enemies, like Richard the Lionheart. For Saladin, the war was holy, but the conduct of war had to be honorable and just. His legacy is that of a unifier and a defender of the faith who acted with magnanimity. Genghis Khan's holy mission was much more elemental and, frankly, terrifying. He wasn't defending a faith. He was imposing a new world order under the authority of a single sky god, Tengri. The Mongol belief was that heaven had decreed one ruler for the earth, and that ruler was Genghis Khan. Any who resisted him were not just resisting an army, they were defying the will of heaven itself, and thus deserved to be obliterated. There was no room for negotiation with the divine. This gave his conquests a righteous, uncompromising fury, while he practiced religious tolerance within his empire, allowing Christians, Muslims, and Buddhists to worship freely as long as they submitted to his rule. His path to creating that empire was paved with the bones of those who stood in his way. His holy war was one of cosmic subjugation. So, who was the deadlier holy warrior? If by deadly, we mean the sheer scale of destruction and the number of lives lost in conquest, the answer is unequivocally Genghis Khan. The Mongol invasions resulted in the deaths of tens of millions of people, fundamentally reshaping the demographics of Asia and the Middle East. His concept of a holy war justified the total destruction of any opposition. The Mongol storm was a force of nature that few could survive if they chose to resist. However, if we measure deadly by strategic effectiveness in achieving a specific faith-driven goal, Saladin presents a powerful case. He succeeded in his life's ambition, uniting his people and reclaiming Jerusalem. He did this while upholding a code of conduct that earned him admiration across the world and for centuries to come. He was deadly on the battlefield, but his ultimate weapon was a combination of military prowess and moral authority. He proved you could be a conqueror without being a butcher. In the end, we're looking at two different definitions of a holy warrior. Saladin was the knight, the defender of the faith, who fought with honor for a sacred cause. His deadliness was precise, strategic, and tempered by mercy. Genghis Khan was the shaman king, the fist of a demanding god, whose sacred duty was to conquer the world. His deadliness was absolute, terrifying, and apocalyptic in scale. One fought to restore an old order. The other fought to create a new one from the ashes of the old. Who was deadlier? It depends on whether you fear the sharp, swift blade of a knight or the unstoppable, all-consuming force of a hurricane. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below who you believe was the more formidable figure. It's a fascinating comparison with no easy answers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you in the next one.